right, good afternoon, everyone. I want to welcome you to another show. My name is Raymond Johnson, and we're here today. We're going to be talking about a very interesting and a very much needed topic. I can guarantee it's going to touch at least 80% of the people that are out there, close to 100%. But if you have been paying attention to the flyers and to the social media, to Facebook, this is something that you have been wanting to get into. I've got a special guest that I'm going to bring on. Her name is Brigitte Jackson. And Brigitte Jackson is a phenomenal person. She fits this category perfectly because she's going to teach us. She's going to show us how to become more likable. I'm going to bring her on in just 1 second, but I want to remind you that on this particular show, we talk about how to build your team and how to grow and how to get your team to thrive, right? And the different components, the four different components of your team. And one of the ways that we do this, and primarily, is through the DISC. We're going to get into later on motivators and employee engagement and how we think and make decisions. But for now, we're focusing heavily on the DISC because the DISC shows how we prefer to behave, how we prefer to show up. I myself am a high D. We talked about that one already last week. I'm also a high I, and I'm an 88. That's high, but that's not as high as some other people. And 88C. We're going to talk about the S next week. I'll tell you what my S is then. But Bridget is a bona fide, authentic 99I. Now I'm a 99I, but she is authentic, right? I've got some things that happened, and I went ahead and made some changes. And I didn't try to become an I, but I became an I. But when I want to learn how to become more interactive with individuals, guess what? I'm going to call Bridget. So we're going to go ahead and bring Bridget on. Bridget, thank you. Welcome for joining us and being on our show today. Go ahead, Bridget.
Thank you for having me, Raymond. Look, I'm giggling because I am. All behind the scenes. I'm sitting here laughing, ready to go, ready to go, ready to go. So definitely, your traditional I interactive style. Totally, 100%.
Yeah, I wish I could be more one of those people who are likable like that, but that's just not in my cards. And so, I adjust and I do what I got to do. But Bridget, you're going to help us. You're going to help us get where
Yes.
we need to be today because we've got people at work, we've got people at school, we've got people at home and their families. And let's just be honest, some people are just jerks. Some people just don't do it for us. And if we have more of the likable trait, like what you have in us, we can get so much further
So
on our
much.
job. So, Bridget, let me go ahead and start with the first thing is can you maybe just let us know what this interactive, this likable person is? I mean, we talk about being likable, but what is it really?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I guess to give people a visual, Oprah. If you see Oprah, you will understand what the interactive style is like. If you look at Oprah, Oprah's very gregarious. She's very outgoing, very inspiring, motivational, optimistic. That is your key indicators that you're in the presence of somebody that is a very, very high, what we call a high I, or again that interactive behavior preference. And so they love, absolutely love to shine, to show up. They're the life of the party. They're the ones that, again, they love being in social, nothing whatsoever, nothing that they scared of. I tell people all the time, if you get on the elevator with me, I'm gonna know about you, or you gonna know something about me before we hit the next floor.
Oh, the next floor.
The next floor, not to the destination, the next floor. I'm going, because again, I get in the elevator and I hate for people to look up. I'm like, good morning, how are you? Ooh, and I'll say something about me. And hopefully, if they're introverted, I'll get something, out that quick, because again, I love socializing.
Yeah. So Bridget, on work, and maybe you can tell our audience a little bit about your background because you have a very extensive background. But tell us about your background and let us know how being an I or an interactive person, being more likable, has benefited you.
Yes. Oh, I definitely. So, first and foremost, right now, currently, I am the CEO of Exponential Edge Adventures. I'm a behavioral wealth strategist, so I love helping people understand all things behavior and how that contributes wealth into all of your relationships. I'm a certified disc instructor. And as a result of my training, business leaders are able to build strong, effective teams and execute your business vision with fidelity. And so, my previous life, I was a principal, a school leader, if you will. And I was in the charter school world. And so in the charter school world, you do a whole lot, you wear a whole lot of hats, you do a lot more than just be the guide. So doing the governance and doing all of that piece. Because I was in the charter school world and it's not like your traditional public schools, I taught in traditional public schools. And so people are just going to come because they live in a neighborhood. For me, for charter schools, in one school, we had, I want to say at one point, like 30 different zip codes that were represented in our school. So we had people coming from all over. We had people coming as far as 30 miles away. Nope, actually, we had somebody that came from 45 miles away. And so
Wow.
understanding that and knowing that, you got to have a gregarious attitude because again, you're selling all the time. Because again, they're not coming from the local neighborhood. You have to fill those seats and get those spots. And so having this type of really truly helped me because my first school I was assistant principal and he was definitely a D and a C. And so I was able to help complement that. And so he put me in charge of the parents. And what did he do that for? We were able to really do. He's a wonderful leader. But I was able to be that extra part for him to be the magnet to draw people in, if you will. His expertise, all of his things that he had, he was bad to the bones. He could get results done in his sleep the day before. But what we were able to really do once I came onto the team was again start getting people to come in because they were loving it because they were being inspired.
I love it. So when we talk about this concept of he was a D and a C, for those of you who may have missed last week's show, we talked about the D, but that D is the person that's very decisive. They're about problem solving. They're about getting results, and that's what type of person she's saying that she worked with. But she is more of the interactive relationship builder, making sure that she's innovative and inspiring and she can go ahead and calm things in order to help things to get the way they need to be. So putting those two together, you not only got things done, you got work done, but you were able to be in charge of the experience of the parents throughout the process. Is that right?
Yeah. So it was amazing. I loved doing all of that stuff because even at that time, I had started dabbling in event planning. So it was just like right up my alley. Really wonderful to be able. You see how my face just lit up. That was like 20 years, but you would think it was yesterday because it was so memorable. Because again, of being in the company of people.
That's good. So Bridget, when you're thinking about our audience, we've got CEOs, executives, vice presidents. Let me get it right. We've got managers, entrepreneurs. We've got people just watching from all walks of life, not just on LinkedIn, but we're on Facebook. That's a whole nother group. YouTube. So 80% of all those people that we're talking about, 80% of them actually are not interactive or have just a little bit. Now, to be clear, everybody has it in them. We've got different amounts, different levels, but as far as those who are dominant, like yourself, we're not talking about that. Most are dominant who have the S in them. That's the workers, the supporters, which we're going to talk about next week. But what would you say to that majority of the audience who we call S's? We call them green, or we call them not air traffic controllers, but grounds crews. These are the people who I like to call the secret weapon. How do we talk to them when it comes to being more interactive? What do we need to help them understand? Because remember, they're all about relationship. They do the work for a relationship. So how is it that we can marry their philosophy with becoming a little bit more interactive? What would you say to that group of people?
Well, I think you said the first key is just being self aware of understanding it. And so that type of person, as we call them in area in our little cohort group, the grounds crew. If you think about when you're at the airport, grounds crew is taking care of all of your needs behind the scenes. They're very people oriented, again, relational oriented, but they want to do it behind the scenes. Well, I'm married to one of those, and so a lot of times he'll hide behind me. And so it's like I'm the outgoing one. I'm the, again, that gregarious, optimistic, out front. Hey, and so again, just being aware of that and knowing it. And as you said, Raymond, we all have varying degrees within us, and you don't have to always be out. But if you are a leader, if you are a manager, especially if you're a CEO, you have to really, really, truly be aware of that, and then know when to, and then when you can position other people to be that face. Because again, that equates into a lot of monetary lessons for you, again, especially when you're in business. Again, no matter what kind of team we lead, we're in some type of business. And so whatever that the stakeholders that you have, you owe that due diligence of being aware of it to be able to help solidify whatever your outcomes are, your results are, your mission, your vision for that organization that you lead or you serve. If that helps unpack
Yeah,
that some.
yeah, that's really good. So, it gets me to thinking about is, so that's one group of people, but then there's those who are high eyes like yourself, and maybe they have not identified that about themselves. They don't know or realize that about themselves. So, take me on a journey. How will a person know when they're in an environment where they're able to be, what's the best way to put this, how will they know they're in an environment where they thrive, like not that where they just only feel comfortable, but where they actually thrive and can pull on their gifts that they bring to the table? How will a person, because some people just don't know, some people just do not know or understand how it is that they can actually, you know what I mean? How they can actually, like, where's my place in life? How do you know when you're in an environment that you can thrive, as opposed to when you're in an environment that sucks the life out of you? That's a little bit easier to understand, but talk to me.
Definitely, definitely. But let me unpack this first, or unwrap this a little bit before, Raymond. Some people, I've been running a week, and I'll say I'm a disc instructor, and they're like, okay, the disc assessment. And they kind of fluff it off. So, first of all, I want to wrap back around to people that if you have ever taken it and you really have never unpacked it, and you're living it 24/7, that 360 degree, three, just going all that whole revolution, then I would definitely say to you 380, that whole full revolution, you really need to be in the presence of somebody like you to really understand how to unpack it, because all you did before was you just did whether it's paper, pencil, electronic, or whatever, you just took something. But it's not just to take it, it really is to truly understand it, because the whole essence of this is us understanding how we communicate and how
Yeah.
we get along. It's to have a common language
Mm.
in our communication. So with that being said, then you have to understand. I, as a school leader, as a leader in my largest, I had about 67 people on my team, in addition to over 1,000 parents, 700 and something, 750 students. So I had a lot of people that I had to deal with, all these different behavior preferences and personalities, and understanding all of that really, really makes sense. And so for me, understanding how my interactive side is really, really important, and what value I bring to the table, I have to understand that I have an optimism, and I always see good in people. And so there was two things that was happening with me, because I had childhood trauma. I didn't really value all of that or understand the light that I bring to the world. And so therefore when I went into the workplace and even when I went into leadership, I had some blind spots and some adaptions. We talk about that later. But what I did have to value and understand is what I bring to the table is that I bring inspiration, that I bring this positivity. And sometimes in certain environments, it might be too much and people don't understand it. And so just to understand those people that are like that are needed, as well as the person that can do the results, person that again is that stabilizing person, and the person that puts systems and protocols in place, that we all, if we stack the deck and we understand how we all fit, then we can really do some things. And so with that, I wanted to share a story, Raymond, about this and understanding your value and knowing what you bring to the table. So I had one school that I was over. They were a school that was struggling. I hadn't gotten there, and I was like, ooh, maybe the fifth, or no. Actually, I think I was like the sixth administrator within 2 years. They had only been open for 2 years. And so when I got there, they had a whole lot of parent issues. They had a lot of discipline issues. And less than 4 months, whoop, turn that place around, right? Well, I had a boss that understood me. And then they switched and they hired somebody else to supervise me. Now, again, I'm not talking about D folks. She was very results oriented. Okay. But she didn't understand what I brought to the table. And so I was always being optimistic about the numbers. And so this school could have closed had they not got their revenue together. Right. And so we needed a minimum of about 65 new students. And so I went out. I got on the ice cream truck, Raymond. I can't even make this stuff up. I rented an ice cream truck. I walked the
Wait a minute, wait a minute.
neighborhood.
You actually got an ice cream truck?
I got an ice cream truck. The ice cream driver drove the truck, and I'm yelling outside, "Hey!" I'm in my serious I mode. Inspirational, serious to the top. Went to the summer programs that was happening in that county. They had a pool splash party. I set that ice cream truck outside, and I delivered to all of those different parents. Now remember, we were a charter school, so people, as long as they lived in Michigan, anybody could come. And so I was getting all these applications, but they weren't going through the whole process. So remember, I told you my boss was high D, very decisive, but she also had that cautious part of that air traffic controller or that C in her too as well. And so she wants to see the facts. And here I am being in all of this emotion, and I'm being in all of this inspiration, and I'm being so optimistic. I'm like, we're gonna hit this number. I need two new teachers. She said to me, and I'm going to calm myself down a little bit. She said to me, I don't want to know all of this theory and all of this stuff. I want to know how many butts going to be in the seats. We had an electronic application process, and the people didn't go over. So while I'm out, I can't get them to do the electronic process. They literally had to come to the school. So they couldn't do it online. They didn't have that automation yet. And so I'm giving them the paper copy. They're giving me back the paper copy, but I'm waiting for them to come in. The other thing is this school is in a urban area, not just African Americans, but we had all different ethnicities there. But most of them lived again in an urban area. So again, I've been in education by this time about 25 years, about 22 years. And I had been in administration by this time by about 12 years or something like that, over 10 years. So I knew my stuff, and
Yeah,
I knew charter school, and I knew again advertisement and marketing
yeah.
because I had been doing this, right? She didn't want to believe me. So I'm telling her it is. So long story short, I told my husband, I said, she come in here and say something else crazy to me, I'm leaving. And not because he thought I was having a nervous breakdown. It wasn't. I was at the point in my career and in my age level that I understand people got to value me for what I am. I literally am like a piper. Like I am the apostle. If I go out and I show and I shine, I can get people to follow me. Story short, that happened. Raymond, like literally, we had 80 something students sign up for the school, but they signed up last minute. And after I left, she didn't hire those two people because I did quit. I quit 3 days before school started, and she didn't get those that I asked her to come on. And so, therefore, they had to have substitutes for the first week of school, or 2 weeks actually, until they. So I'm saying all that to say is we got to value what people bring to the table. So, mind you, I made almost $500,000 for them in less than 6 weeks
Come on now.
because I was gregarious,
Yes.
because I was optimistic, and
Yes.
because I let my skill set shine because that's my behavior preference. And people
Yes.
couldn't believe it. They're like, "You're the principal?" I'm like, "Yeah." They're like,
Mm.
"Okay, you
Mhm.
out here walking
Mhm.
door to door." I said,
Mhm.
"Because I love my job. I
Mhm.
love people. People energize me."
Yeah.
So being out in the community, I was like Pac-Man,
Right.
you know?
Right. You don't you got me. Look, you got me all ready to go now. This is the thing. We when you are in an environment where you know that you are able to use your gifts, you can get things done. And not only that, look, you said you needed 60 some students and you ended up with 80 plus students. So what happens is not only were you able to meet your goal, you were actually able to exceed your goal. And let me talk to my D's. Let me go back a little bit. I know we talk about being more likable and interactive, but let me just talk to my D's for a second. If you are an A-type personality, you are a person who is all like her boss, or what she described, which I am very much all of that. D, C, let's go. But what you need to do is, and Bridget, you said it, you need to realize who you are working with. And if you do not know who you're working with, you not only shoot them in the foot, but you shoot yourself in the foot as well. When you know who you're working with, you can actually get further than you can with. There are studies that say you got to be more innovative, and we got to have this, and we got to have diversity, equity, and inclusion. All those things are important and good. But without the fundamentals of knowing who is on your team, none of that is going to be able to work. You'll work harder trying to make things actually take place. And if your boss, okay, so let's jump in here. If your boss at that time had known what who she was working with, what gifts you were bringing to the table, if she knew that, how would that have changed things for you?
Yeah. Well, I definitely wouldn't have quit. And I hate that I quit because my word is my bond. Because again, remember I told you I'm very relational. So that's the other thing with high eyes, interactive type people. We're very much into the experience. Okay. And so the thing that we thrive on are the people. And I had promised the parents because again, like I said, I was like the sixth administrator within 2 years. And I
Yeah,
promised them I wasn't going anywhere. But
yeah,
after that, after she couldn't tap into and see that I brought all of these people in, even though she couldn't see them, I said,
mm-hmm,
I promise you they're coming. I
mm-hmm,
promise you they're
mm-hmm,
coming. And it wasn't an ego thing or anything. I know how their eyes lit up. I know how they were literally inspired. I was there late at night letting parents come in because they worked during the daytime and the
yeah.
school closed so that they could do the application process.
You
So I
connected.
knew they were coming.
Yeah.
But what would have happened was she could have had a star person, and then again her wealth, because my decisiveness is mid range, low range, and so I will go up and become a little bit more aggressive when I feel there's some competition or some different things that are going on. But that's not my natural lane. I
Mm-hmm.
love being all about the people first, and then doing the solutions and doing getting those results. That's going to come secondary for me. So her and I really could have been yin and yang.
Yeah.
So her role was
Right.
more like a superintendent. And that's why it's so important for people to value everybody you have on the team
Yep.
and have your right people in the right place.
That's right. That's right. And if you don't have them in the right place, I mean, we know what happens. There's attrition. There's all kind of bad things
Yep.
that happen. But when you've got people in the right place doing the right thing, in the right way, then
Yeah.
it works. And it's easy. You only need four people on your team. So we've talked about that good. So I'm gonna stick with this eye. So when we're dealing with the eye, what actually stresses you? I mean, you kind of hit on it a little bit,
Ooh.
but what actually stresses you when you're not able to be yourself?
One of the biggest things that can happen with eyes, and it will depend in various levels. It depends on, again, where you're at. It depends on some of your background. It depends on, where you're at in your maturation of your behavior preference, right? But one of the big things that can happen, eyes do not like rejection. And so again, they are people oriented. So that can be an issue. Another issue is eyes can start being less trusting when they're not seeing anything, because again, they're very emotional. And so that's another blind spot, if they're not careful, is being in their emotions. And so while they're very optimistic, sometimes they can start going to the at the spectrum, the lower end of the spectrum, which there's nothing wrong with a high end or lower end. It's all in, how you're showing up and how you're using your skill or that God has given you. But the sometimes people on the lower end of spectrum are more pragmatic. So in other words, they're about the facts. They're about, look, we want some reality. I want all that pie in the sky, all that optimism. And so high eyes, if they're not paying attention, can start moving in those directions and also moving too fast. Like right
Right.
now, I'm talking really fast because I'm really excited.
That's
But if
good.
I'm talking to somebody that's introverted, I need to realize that, and I need to slow down. I need to not use as much hand gestures so that again, I can listen more.
And it doesn't come off as aggressive or threatening to the other person. I like
Yeah.
what you said about, and I'll put it in my words, that low and versus high. Remember that when you're low or high on the scale for the disc, high doesn't mean good and low doesn't mean bad. It just means that's just where you are. We're just looking at where you measure, and it all depends on the situation that you're in. It all depends where you are. And look, in certain situations, like you don't want to actually, how do I put it? You don't actually want to be high in those introverted environments, like you said. But there's other situations and times where you want to be high, and you got to know how to read the room, as my son says all the time. You got to read the room, so you want to make sure you know where you are, what you're dealing with, so you can know what you got to bring to the table. Let's get ready to close on some of the strengths, and this is where we're going to kind of get a little bit more analytical, so to speak, because we're talking to the 80%. We want to let them know how to become more interactive. So you gave us a wealth of strengths, but let's generalize being likable and the strengths that come to being likable, and we need to make sure we actually give them steps on how to become likable. So maybe what we ought to do, Bridget, let's start with the steps. Let's start with the steps. How to become more likable. Give us at least 3 steps. How to become likable.
Okay. So, step number one that I would, challenge people to do is, one, ask people. So, even for me being a high I, I told you when I first started as a school administrator, I had issues with trust. And so I wasn't showing up as the I that you see today. I was showing up as the broken I, okay, if you will. So one of the things that I share with people all the time is get that feedback, get that input. And so how do other people perceive you on a likability scale? And put on some thick skin to be able to take and receive what they say. So that's going to help you with your awareness. And then when you have the awareness, then start adapting to that and start listening to the language and everything. So how do I move and maneuver in those environments and in those situations? For instance, if I'm at a company event, am I being the what they call it, a wallflower? That's what we used to call it back in the day, when you go to a party and you're up on the wall. So making sure that you're spending time and understand other people and other people getting to understand you in sincerity. And then I guess the third step that I would say is then just be totally vulnerable and start opening up, because all are humans, and so we all have common things. And the more people understand about you, so it might just be starting with sharing a little bit more, so being a little bit vulnerable, being a little bit more transparent, so that people can understand the human side of you. And I think a lot of times in the corporate world and in our businesses, we don't spend that time getting to know one another at a granular level, because that starts a whole lot of stuff. Because when I find out, Raymond, that you like purple just like I like purple, now we have a commonality that we can start talking. And now, the more we start talking, the more, again, I'm likable in your eyes, but you're also likable in my eyes. And I don't
Mm,
see you as this quiet person that's, over there, or you're standoffish, because you're not standoffish. We
mm-hmm.
all are human, but
Hmm.
sometimes we just have not done some of that. So I hope that helped you unpack that a little
That's
bit, because my mind is going. So that's the other thing about those eyes. My mind is moving a mile a minute.
no, that's good. That's good. I
It's
like
not ADHD.
no.
The people out there that think they ADHD, them D's in those eyes, we just move fast.
Yeah. In fact, we equate speed with efficiency. So the faster you are, the more efficient you are. But let me recap what you just said. You said that number one, we need to ask others. Number two, we need to adapt, and number three, we need to open up. So that's good. So we've got our steps on how to become more likable. Ask, adapt, and open up. But then the other question is, what specific benefits are there? Now I'm gonna start with the benefits that you just said. One of the benefits are not only do you like me, but I like you. And so it's a two-way street. But maybe you can give us two to three more benefits. Remember that 80% we're talking to. What are the benefits? Because remember, those people that we're talking to who are not high eyes, who are very mistrusting and cautious and exclusive and reclusive, those are the people who may be that way because of failures, because of hurts, and so they're protecting themselves. But then it may also be that's just how they wired. So what are some of the benefits as we look at being, and we'll let this be our last one. What are some of the benefits that you can walk us through?
Oh, wow. I love this question, because right now I'm doing a lot of work behind the scenes in building my business. And one of my favorite people is Patrick Lencioni, and Five Dysfunctions of a Team. And right now I'm rereading the book, The Six. I'm looking here, The Six Types of Working Genius. And the benefit is the fact that you literally can tap into the working genius of each other. Another benefit is the fact that you start, again, that I like you, you like me. More than out of that, you get a lot more productivity, because you start getting people to understand each other, again, like I said, at a nuclear level. And so when I start understanding you and you start understanding me at a nuclear level, now we don't get so caught up in our feelings, our emotions, or even sometimes we might have facts about it, that this didn't get done or that didn't get done. So now we're increasing productivity as a benefit, because now I understand you, you understand me, communicate in a language that I understand. I communicate in a language that you understand. Even though we might have different behavior preferences, we literally can value what we each bring to the table. Therefore, you have talent that is growing. Therefore, you have productivity that is increasing. Therefore, you have a business plan and a business that is getting executed.
My. Lord have mercy. Look, if you don't know, the eyes say stuff that the D say, and it sounds better when the eye says it. I mean, it just sounds better. It's more inspirational, right? But look, here's what you said. You said that we tap into the genius of others. Oh my goodness. You said that we get more productivity. And what was that third one? You said that we get what?
We
Oh,
grow and develop more talent, and then I said we're
talent.
able to execute on the vision and the mission of the organization.
My. That's good. And look, we spend thousands and thousands of dollars training employees to
Hmm.
get those things done when the simple answer is be more interactive. A lot of times, the best answer is the one that's right in front of you. It's simple. Be more likable. But people need to be trained in this. They need to be
Yeah.
trained in this. All right, Bridget, I've got a whole lot of takeaways here. I want to thank you for joining us. And we're going to bring you back because we're going to be talking about values. We're going to be talking about decision making. We're going to bring you back. And to the audience, if you want Bridget to come back, I need you to put it in the chat. Bring Bridget back. You can put BJB. It stands for Bridget Jackson Brown, but you can say BJB, bring Bridget back, right? Look,
Yeah.
this has been good. Thank you so much for gracing us. I appreciate you so much. We're gonna
Thank
go
you for
ahead.
having me.
Absolutely, we're going ahead. I'm going to close right here. But you all be blessed. Remember, we meet every Wednesday. Every Wednesday, that is at what time did we say? 12 p.m. Eastern time. So we want to invite you to come, whether you're on LinkedIn, Facebook. Weekdays, we're talking about LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube. We want to make sure that you are your best self. So be blessed. We'll talk to you and see you next week.